We're going to be focusing on gears in Adobe Illustrator CC. First, I'm going to show you how you used to create them natively in Illustrator. After that, I'm going to show you how to create them with the help of Astute Graphics VectorScribe. Along the way, I'm going to be giving you a bunch of quick tips and keyboard shortcuts to help you with your productivity. Alright, first let's get started by showing you how I used to create them. I'm going to hit the letter M to get my rectangle tool, click and drag, and just create a rectangle in the middle of my artboard. I'll hit the letter R to get my rotate tool, and then click right in the center. Even the smart guides are telling me that that's the center, so I feel comfortable just holding down Alt and clicking once there. And you see here I already have some degrees from the last time I used this. The way you can find out how to actually rotate these guys is find out how many times you want it to rotate, and you know it's going to go 360 degrees. So what I do is 360 divided by however many times I want it to rotate. In this situation, I'm just going to put down 10. And instead of hitting OK, I'm going to hit copy. Make sure this preview's on so you kind of get an idea of where it's going to turn. Once I hit copy, you see it does that for me. In order to duplicate that action, I just have to hit Command D a couple times until it looks like how I want it. If I were to hit Command D one more time, you see that that rectangle just goes above the old one. So I'm going to Command Z because I don't really need that one. Next, I'm going to hit the letter L so I can get my ellipse tool. I'll come here to the center of this guy, right there where it says intersect. I'll hold down Option, click and drag. What that does is it makes the circle come out from the center. And if I want it to be a perfect circle, I just hold down Shift. And I start trying to define how long I want these teeth to be. If I want short teeth, I'll make a really big circle. If I want longer teeth, I'll come right about here. I'll release that so you can see what it looks like. I hit the letter V to get my selection tool. Click and drag to select all of my artwork. And then hit over here and find my Pathfinder panel. Click on that. And the action I want to select is this one right here, Unite. I click on that once, and it creates the gear for me with all the teeth. The only thing I'm missing is the hole for the drive. So I'll find the center of my artwork, click and drag out, introduce Alt and Shift to make sure it's in the center and it's a perfect circle. Now I can make it a large hole or a small hole. It just kind of depends on the project. Right around there looks pretty good. I hit the letter V to get my selection tool, click and drag to select both of these pieces. And next I'm going to come back to my Pathfinder, and I have the minus front option here. I'll click on that once, and now it's a complete shape. There's actually a hole in the middle of this guy. So when I click on it, hit the letter X to activate my fill. I'll come over here to my swatch panel and give it a new color. There we go. We turned it gray. And that's how I used to create gears natively in Adobe Illustrator CC. Next, I'm going to show you how I create them today with the help of VectorScribe by Astute Graphics. Let's make some modifications to this artboard. I just want it to be a little bit bigger than my artwork. So I'll click and drag, and there you go. Let me just move this guy out of the way. And I'll create a new artboard here. I hit the letter V to get out of the artboard mode. Click on it once. Command 0 will let me zoom in all the way. Alright, let me come over here to Window. Scroll down until I find VectorScribe. Right here I'm going to find my Dynamic Shapes panel. I'll click on that once, and you see it here. It also brought along the PathScribe panel because this is how I had it last time I used it. I'll click on this once to activate it. I'm going to start off my gear by using the dynamic star. All I have to do is double click on my artboard and it creates a star for me right away. I'll hit the letter D to give it the default appearance of a white fill with a black stroke. What I really like about using dynamic shapes is that they are dynamic. So I'll come back to the panel, and all I have to do is hit the up arrow key a couple times to introduce new points. Now that I have 10 points on my star, that looks pretty good. This section here affects all the corner areas. What I want to do is bring these guys down, these guys up, and start rounding it off a little bit. I'm able to do that here. I'll just click once, drag to highlight the entire value, and then with my up arrow key, I can make modifications. Once I get to about 5 pixels, that actually looks pretty good. I hit enter to accept that. Next, I want to try to make it look more like this gear we created earlier. See how it has these flat edges here? I hit Command 0. I'm able to do that really fast right here in the Dynamic Shapes panel. All I have to do is click on this button once, and it did it for me. So there you go. I have my gear already ready to go. Let me hit Command Shift A so you can see it better. The only thing I'm missing is the hole for the drive. So let's come back to the Dynamic Shapes. We'll select this dynamic circle. I just have to click on this once to activate it, come back into my artboard, click and drag to start drawing. I'm not going to release my mouse just yet because I actually want to show you a modifier key for this. Hold down the space bar and you're able to start moving your shape around. This also works with primitive shapes in Illustrator. So there you go. Now that I got this guy pretty much lined up right there, I'll release my space bar and I could still make changes to my circle because I haven't released the mouse just yet. Right around there looks pretty good to me. I hit the letter V to get my selection tool. I'll click and drag to select both shapes. Now let's come over here to the Pathfinder panel. I'll just click on this once to activate it, come over here to shape modes, and instead of just clicking on minus front this time, I'm going to hit Option, then click on it. What that does is it creates a compound shape for me. I'll come over here to my swatches panel, turn it gray, hide my panels by hitting Tab, spacebar, click and drag, and now we can compare these gears side by side. You see this one that I created with VectorScribe looks a little bit cooler, already has some shape here. There's some more work I could do to it, but there's a lot more power and edits for this one than there is on this one. I'll show you those in a sec. Next I'm going to go over a couple quick tips for artboards in Illustrator. Let me click on here once to activate that one, Command 0 to fill in my screen, Tab will bring back some of my panels. All I have to do to activate the Artboard tool is hit Shift O. And now you see I'm in this artboard mode. I could also click on the tool here in the tool panel to activate it. Command click will select all of my artwork. Come back to presets, and now you see I have this preset available to me called Fit to Selected Art. Click on that once, and it changes my artboard to fit nice and tight with my artwork. I'll show you this guy in action again. I'll hold down spacebar, click and drag. Click once to activate this artboard. Command click to select the artwork. Presets, Fit to Selected Art, and there you have it. Nice and tight all around here. Because I have this option selected, Move Copy Artwork with Artboard, I'm able to click, drag, and it moves my artboard along with my artwork. Spacebar, click and drag to move this over. The next thing I want to do, let me click on this to activate the second artboard. I actually want to make a copy of not only the artboard, but the artwork inside. So let me move this guy up a little bit. And then now when I come right here, I'm going to hold down Option, and you see my cursor changes. I have a double cursor. While holding that down, I'm going to click and drag. And if I hold down Shift, it'll keep it nice and straight for me. And then I'll release my mouse first, then the modifier keys, and I have a complete copy of what I created earlier. In order to get out of this artboard mode, all I have to do is select another tool. I'll hit the letter V, that gives me my selection tool, Command 0, and that fills up the space here. Now I have an exact copy of the gear that I created earlier, and I'm able to make edits to this so I could have multiple gears for my project. So let me give you a quick example of that here. I'll select my artwork, but that selects the entire compound shape. I want to target one shape at a time. In order to do that, I'll double click on my shape, and that brings me into this isolation mode. I'll click on this shape, come back to my dynamic shapes, and you see it's all still dynamic. I can make all the changes I want. Let's say they needed this gear to have more teeth. I could just go in the points section with the up arrow key, introduce more points. If we wanted less, I just go down with the down arrow key. Let me bring in 12 points, actually 13, just so you could see that my gear shape is actually gone, but I could bring this guy back really easy. There you go. I could just use these control handles here, or I have control over it right here in this section with my up and down arrow keys. I kind of find this to be a little bit easier when I'm making slight modifications. So right around there looks good to me. I'll hit the letter V to access my selection tool because I want to select this circle here. I'll come back to my dynamic shapes, and instead of a circle, I actually want to select this polygon. And I could change how many sides this polygon has right away. If I wanted to change the size of the polygon, just come right here in this panel, and with my up and down arrow keys, I can make the modification right away. Let's see. Right around there looks good, just to make it have a whole nother look. Hit enter to accept that. Hit the letter V to get your selection tool and double click anywhere on your board, and that gets you out of that isolation mode. The reason I like working like this, let me zoom out. Spacebar. You can see that I already have a couple different looks already going for my gears. I want to go for a fourth look. Bring these guys over. Shift O to activate my artboard. I'll just come right here. Option. Click and drag. And that creates a new copy of a new gear. Command 0 to zoom in. And now I'm ready to make edits to this new gear. I'll start that off by double clicking on this shape. That brings me into isolation mode. I'll click on this shape, dynamic shapes, change it into a circle. Then I want to change the size of this from 22 pixels to about 40 pixels. That looks great. Command click so I can select this other object. And I want to bring the points down on this. Instead of 13, I want it to have 8. But now you see it's too big, it's hanging out here, so I got to make some more modifications. That's what these little red handles are for. I'm able to click and drag to bring them in. Click and drag. All of these just kind of help me fit this guy in there just right. That looks great. What I'd like to do is kind of round these guys off a little bit like you would see in an actual real gear. So first, I'm going to round all these guys off by coming over here to VectorScribe. Right here it says smooth point. Click on that once and it turned all these guys into smooth points for me. I'll click on the VectorScribe tool to activate it. All I have to do is click and drag, hold down shift, click and drag, click and drag. What I'm doing here is selecting every single one of these segments here at the points. That's going to give me some more control and I'm going to be able to make some quick edits. All of them are selected and you see these little handles. Back to the VectorScribe panel. Right here it says retract handles on selected segments. I'll click on that once and that's what it did. It retracted just those handles in those segments. So now I have this flat surface here. That's really cool. I'm going to hit the letter Q. And what that does is it activates this tool here. It's the Lasso Tool. I'll click and drag. And what I'm doing is I'm going to be selecting the outer anchor points. This would really be hard to do if I just had the direct selection tool. Clicking, holding down shift, clicking, holding down shift throughout all of them. Right here I just have to kind of lasso them all up and whatever's inside of that gets selected. Next I'll come over here to my tool panel and select VectorScribe. Click on that once and then I'll come over here and show you a really cool trick. Once I come over here I hit shift, option, click on my artboard and it turns this guy into multi-handle mode. I'll show you what's so cool about that. I'll click on one of these white handles, drag it out, and it manipulates all of the handles for me all at the same time, the exact same way. This is like really hard to do if I'm just an Illustrator alone. I don't think I'd be able to get all of them exact like that, and it would take me a really long time to try to do something like this. Let me hit the letter V to get my selection tool, and I'll double click to deselect it, and that way you can see all of this. One more little artboard trick I wanted to show you. It's a keyboard shortcut. If I wanted to select all of my artwork, the typical way of doing it is hitting Command A. Unfortunately, because I have multiple artboards right now, it's actually selecting all of the artwork on all of my artboards. If I just wanted to select the artwork in a single artboard, I have to make sure it's activated. You can tell this one's activated because it has a thicker black line around it. And all I have to do is hit Command Option A. And that will select all the artwork that's in that artboard. I'll give you another example. I'll activate this artboard here. Actually, I'll activate this guy here. See, it's activated. Command Option A. And it selects all that artwork. Come back over here. Activate this one. Command Option A. And that's how that works. Alright, now that we have our gears all set up, 4 different gears here, the next step I would take is saving these guys out. So Command Shift S. That brings up the Save As dialog box. I'll come over here, change the format to SVG. Just click on this once. Come over here to where it says Use Artboards. Check that off. What that's going to do is create 4 different files from my 4 different artboards. Or I could specify a range here. Because I have multiple files, I should come over here and create a new folder. I'm going to call mine Gears. Hit OK to accept. And now I have this folder here. I'll hit Save. And up comes this SVG options. Make any changes you need to make here. And then click OK. There, it's already done. Command O. And it created 4 files for me right away, 1 out of each artboard that I created earlier. See how it says Gears 1, 2, 3, and 4? Let me hit cancel. Shift O to bring up my artboards. Those numbers correspond with the different artboards you have here. So this is artboard 1, 2, 3, and 4. and they're all saved off as individual files for me there. And that's how I use Adobe Illustrator and Astute Graphics VectorScribe to create different types of gears. On the Astute Graphics website, they actually have a blog that goes into detail how to create realistic looking gears. I'll be sure to provide a link to that down below in the description.